right. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, depending on where in the world you are. The 4 o'clock in the afternoon show Pacific. I know we get people in the morning tomorrow in Australia and Singapore and New Zealand and points, I guess there's west of us. And everyone else, North America, welcome. I think the Europeans and the Africans are in bed. But we'll see them on Thursday. My name is Alex GLASSEY. Welcome to Face with Alex GLASSEY. And today I've got an awesome 30 minutes for you. We're going to talk with my friend Marc Stoiber. We're going to talk about his book. You're going to get a chance to talk with him directly. So you can either do it the old school way of asking him questions through the chat, which is over on the right-hand side. And so as after he and I have a little chat back and forth about what he's doing, then we'll read some of those questions off. But I'm also hoping that you'll come in the new school way, the modern way, and you'll click the Ask to Join button, which is down there, and join the queue. And then you'll be able to come in and you'll actually be able to be face-to-face with Marc. So if you've got a question about him and what he's doing, about his book, about his approach, or maybe you've got a question about about your own business, about some issue or concern or challenge or something, Marc is the brand guy, and I know he'd be delighted to help out. So we're going to talk with Marc for 10, 15 minutes, and as long as we need to. And then what I'd like to do is to give you a 1-minute overview, maybe a 2-minute overview about how to use face-to-face just for a meeting. Just if you and your team are needing to chat, I'm going to show you the 3-step, literally it's a 10-second or 15-second maybe way to start a meeting and start to use face-to-face that way. Then we'll give away Marc's book. Everyone who's here will give you a link, and you're free to get it. And then afterwards, I'll stick around and wait as long as people have questions about face-to-face and how to use it. And/or I think Marc's going to stick around as well if you've got more questions. But we know that we promised 30 minutes, and we want to allow people who need to go after that. All right, so let me. I'm going to start to bring Marc in here, just so that he's in the background. There he is. So what I've got here is a guy that is a local Victoria guy, Marc Stoiber. He's the love this guy. He's been around. He doesn't look that old, but he's actually been around the branding game for 25 years. He's lived all over the world, lived on 3 continents, including a long time in Bali, 6 months. Well, to me, that's a long time in the sun. And he's got a wife and 2 kids. As I say, they're based now in Victoria, Canada, on the lovely West Coast. I think it's still a little cool to surf, but Marc's going to tell us about whether it is or not. And along with doing his brand consulting, I got a long list here. He skateboards, he surfs, plays guitar, writes books, as you already know, and he teaches at Royal Roads. Fabulous guy. We're going to talk about his book, Didn't See It Coming, which I love this cover. I'm going to talk more about that cover. But let me bring in Marc right now. There he is. So Marc's in his office. Marc's in his office in Victoria, and Marc, it is fabulous to have you here. So thanks so much for agreeing to doing this.
Thank you for having me.
So what's going on, man?
What's going on? I'm just hanging out. I've been waiting all day to get on this broadcast. I'm very excited to do it.
Well, we're very excited to have you do it. I know that I've been emailing, as people know, I've been emailing all day. We got a lot of people watching right now, and we got a couple of people signed up to come in and talk to you already.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Awesome.
Listen, you're a guy. You're a guy. So yeah.
I hope I can provide smart answers.
Exactly. Yeah. So what is it you do? Like, just generally speaking.
It's funny because there's a great story behind that. When I went on my own as a consultant, well, first off, I guess I'll start at the beginning. I started in Europe, in Switzerland. I discovered advertising as a way that you could take pictures and put words behind them, and people would pay you money to do that. I didn't realize that existed as a career, and I went from there. I went to Hong Kong and I worked as a copywriter in a big ad agency, and then from there I went back to Europe again and worked for a while as a creative director. Then I came back and worked in Vancouver at a local agency, a Vancouver agency that then grew and became hugely popular and very successful, called DDB. And DDB moved me to Toronto, so I worked out of Toronto for a while. And right about that time, I sort of hit this point where I said, you know, there's something going on here that companies want you to say all the good things about them, and they'll pay you money for that. And this was just around the time of the dot-com revolution, before social media. And I thought, well, that seems kind of ridiculous, because in the world of digital, you can speak for yourself. Why do you need other people? And so I started this long journey that's actually at the core of the book. And where I ended up, you learn a thing or two in advertising. What you learn is how to make complicated things simple and charming. And I think that's the one skill set that I've retained and maintained, and that's what people hire me for now. So it's a wonderful job, because I started an agency based on sustainability, making sustainability sexy. And then I evolved into healthcare, and now I live in the world of tech mainly. And it's very cool, because each of these fields has an extremely hard time telling people what they do in a simple, captivating way.
Wow. Wow. Listen, Mark, I'm going to pause you just there for just a second. There's a technical issue, and I'm just going to see if there's if people are able to hear you. I see a couple of people say that they're not able to hear you.
Nobody can hear me?
No, I'm just hang on for just a second. We're going to see if there's anyone else. Just go into the chat and just type in if you can't hear Mark, or if you can hear Mark. Let's do that. If you can hear Mark, say I can hear Mark, or yes, or okay.
Yes, Patricia can hear me. That's all that really matters, that Patricia can hear me.
Okay, so Patricia and Lisa. All right, so Fergus and Peter, we're not quite sure. We're monitoring all this stuff technologically, and so we may have an answer for you, but by our apologies, and I'll get back to you after the show with either a recorded broadcast, which we do have. We're recording this right now. And again, we got Mark back on Thursday morning live. So, all right. So Fergus can hear. So Fergus, you're in Ireland, aren't you? I think, but Mark and I are in the same city. So yeah. Okay. So let's get back to Mark. Okay. First, I'm sorry you can't hear Mark, and we'll figure this out and get back to you about it a little bit later.
Okay.
So anyway, Mark. So thanks for that lead up. Tell me again. Tell me about brand.
About brand.
Brand.
What is brand?
Yeah, just anything about brand, because like it's a tiny little word of 5 letters, and to me it has this huge, I don't know, it seems complicated, it has a weight to it. So what is brand?
It's a really funny thing. Brand is one of the most maligned, misunderstood words in the language of business. And a lot of people think that brands are the paint jobs that they put on airplanes. You know, they look all shiny. Or right. Brands is the line that an airline uses, like fly the friendly skies. And in actual fact, a brand is a lot closer to what happens if you get dragged off an airplane and everybody films the fiasco and you get sued and your airline loses $800 million in stock. A brand is 2 things, 2 very simple things. It's the promise that I, as a company, make to you that if you buy my stuff, if you bless me with your money, I will deliver something to you consistently. And on your side, a brand as a customer is an expectation that if you give me, the company, your hard-earned cash, that you can expect something consistently in return. It's not that different from a human relationship. You know, if I say to you, Alex, I'm going to do something for you, I'm going to be there on Saturday morning so we can work on something together, and I don't show up, I've broken a brand promise. You think a little less of me. And just like a brand, it's going to take me a little while to win back your trust again, you know? So it's a lot like a human relationship, and that's what makes it kind of fuzzy and fishy, because in the world of business, we relate a lot more to ones and zeros.
Yeah.
And so an emotional analog kind of thing is kind of hard for a lot of people, especially the more linear thinkers among us, to wrap their heads around. But that doesn't mean it isn't powerful. It's,
Okay.
Coca-Cola is worth about half of what it's worth if you take away the brand. The brand doubles the value of the company. So there's very real money value here.
As you know, both of us work a lot with smaller businesses. We're not the Cokes. I mean, I know you did some work and probably still do with some larger
Mm-hmm.
companies, but most of my career has always been with smaller companies. And of course, all the companies that I've started and grown have always been what we call smaller businesses, certainly under $50 million a year.
Mm-hmm.
And when we're not taught really about brand. We know in our heads what we're trying to do, and we know what we're good at, and then someone asks us about it, and then I'm the guy at the party that will tell you, but it's going to take me 15 minutes. So if brand is that promise, and if you're telling me that it's got to be short, how do I get that 15-minute discussion? How do I get that down into something that's like easily digestible?
It's a wonderful trick, and it's very, very hard to do. The trick of it is to not do it yourself. It's incredible. I have a great story around that. When I went on my own as a consultant, I talked to my old boss, my CEO, John Clinton at Gray Advertising. And I said, John, when clients used to come to us and want to work with me, why? Why? And I thought he'd give me an answer like, you're a creative genius or you're innovative or I don't know what. And what he said without hesitation is, you're simple. And I thought, oh, great, I'm Forrest Gump. That's wonderful. 20 years in the business and I get Forrest Gump. And he said, no, you don't understand. You don't understand. Simple is a really good thing because our lives are really complicated, and somebody who can take that and make it simple is very valuable. I would have never come up with simple. But in fact, I mean, if you go to my website, if you check out the book, any of that stuff, I've based what I do now as a consultant on making things simple and surprising for people, but mainly simple. And it works like the dickens because other people can see what you're really, really good at, and you can only see what you want to be good at. Not necessarily the same thing.
And we also, I struggle with this myself, and I know almost every small business owner I know, and I know lots and lots of them. They all struggle with it. We live in our own heads. Mm-hmm. We bounce around. We're trying to do this and this and this and this and this and this, and we deliver all those things, and yet that's really not what we deliver.
Yeah.
And that's not what we deliver.
Yeah. I've got a great story about that. For years as a consultant, I was so enamored of my ability to meld design and advertising and sustainability and innovation because I worked in all those fields. And I created this thing called future-proof brands. I got the .com for it, and I built my entire career around future-proof brands. I never had a client come to me and say, Mark, can you build a future-proof brand for me? After a few years, I helped start an SEO company, and I talked to the founder. I said, it's really funny, this amazing term, future-proof brands, and they love it when I give it in a speech. And nobody came to me, and he said, do you want to check how many people are actually typing future-proof brand into their computer?
Exactly. Yeah.
Zero. Yeah. Completely diluted. I was completely inside my own head.
Yeah. Hey, listen, who does a good job of that? Give us an example, maybe from a big company, if you can think of one off the top of your head. But also, I'd like to hear an example of a little company that and again, not little tiny, but just a smaller company.
Well,
who does a good job?
I would say that it's more of a categoric thing. I think the companies that do absolutely amazing jobs at insight into themselves are companies that have driven by data gathering. And I find that this happens a lot in tech, where you've got an entirely new mentality in tech, which is all about on demand, constantly iterating the product, constantly tweaking the product, constantly trying to make it better, constantly getting feedback saying, what do you think about this? Well, let's do a split test. What do you guys think versus what do you guys think? And evolving the product and never having an end goal in mind. So I think tech is an incredible sector for that. And nowadays, I say the tech sector, every sector is tech. So I say any company that has figured out how to harness data inputs from people, constantly getting data. And that can be as simple as if you run a corner store, when everybody checks out, then you say, did you find everything you wanted today? And they say, well, maybe. Wait, what didn't you find? How could we make it
Yeah.
better? I know you yourself, you do something when you teach courses. At the end of each unit pack, you say, what else can I help you with? It's a simple question. It's possibly the most powerful business tool there is. What else can I help you with?
Yeah.
So I think tech, any company that figures out how to draw constant input from consumers and get them really critiquing you, not just being nice. And
And how does that lead? How does that play into brand?
how does that play into brand? Because people will tell
Yeah.
you what your brand is. You know, it's funny. You and I have talked
Ah,
about this before, um,
okay.
but everybody has a brand. Everybody, everything has a brand. Just like you have a personality, I have a personality. There's nothing devoid of personality. Whether
Yeah.
you recognize that and play to that or not is up to you.
Yeah.
So, you know, if you say, I don't have a brand, I don't have time to worry about that, guess what? People still have an impression of you. And I can
Yeah.
guarantee one
Well,
thing, it's not going to be as nice as if you created that brand for yourself.
yeah, no, I get it. I get when I teach, because I teach a business course, and I teach online, and when I talk about brand, I mean, I think you have a way deeper understanding of it than I do, and I certainly can't do what you do, which is to take these complicated stuff in people's heads and simplify it. But what I do teach is that brand is equal to the sum of the experience that your customers have with you
Mm-hmm.
and about you.
Yeah.
So it's absolutely, you get a great product with great packaging. You have a question, it's instantly answered on the phone. That experience is what builds up my emotional response to your logo.
Yeah.
So the logo is the brand. It's the emotional response that I have when I see your logo, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, a logo is a bit
yeah,
like a lighthouse. A logo will tell you that this is where the safe haven is, but a logo is not the actual safe haven. You know, it's not the safe little bay to dock your ship. It's just a signal. So, you
yeah,
know, if you've got a good brand, that means the experience that you give people when they come in contact with you. A logo just signals that from 50 feet away.
awesome.
And that's a lot of
Well, listen,
times people confuse the two all the time.
yeah, no, for sure. Listen, speaking of logos, what I want to do is I want to bring this up, and this is the logo from your book,
Hmm.
and the name of the book is "Didn't See It Coming." And the first time I saw this book, and I don't know if you're aware, but I had just written a book about a year ago, and I struggled incredibly hard with the cover design. And I still don't think it's. I mean, I think it's okay, and it does what I want it to do. But when I saw your book, I was just immediately envious because you captured the simplicity of the ethos of what you do in this incredible graphic. Tell me about this graphic and how it came to be.
Well, here's a tip for all your listeners. If you can get somebody on the outside to think of things like this for you, because I mean, I'm not trained as a designer, graphic designer. I'm a copywriter by trade, but I know a lot of people in advertising. And if you want to get somebody in advertising working for you, offer them a trade and also tell them that with the brief, I want you to design a logo for me or a cover of a book in this case. And my only brief to you is that it follow these things. It's didn't see it coming. It's all about the future. It's all about taking your expectations and throwing them out the window, I said.
Yeah,
And the other part of the brief is it has got to shock me and it has to be amazing and it has to win awards. And you tell a designer that and they're off to the races. So in this case, I talked to friends of mine at an agency called Rethink, which is a great agency. And I said, that's the brief. It didn't see it coming is all about throwing away your expectations and the status quo. And the design has to win awards. And that's all I wanted. And what's wonderful is they took the entire book and distilled it down into a simple thought. I could have never done it myself, ever. And they
yeah, it's
traded it
awesome.
to me for a few days of freelance work, which to me was just the bargain of the century.
Yeah, absolutely. It's awesome. And tell me now that I've got your book,
Mhm.
and I think it was one of the first people to buy it, and got it, read it. but you tell me what's the key takeaway from that book? Because it's easy to read. It's big print. It's nicely spaced. The font. I mean, it all resonates exactly with the simplicity ethos that you're trying to preach. But what's the one takeaway that I'm going to get from your book if I was a new reader to it?
I think what it does, it gives you a few simple tips to build a brand that will be resilient enough to thrive, not just survive, but to thrive in our highly disruptive times. And essentially, it does this in two stages. One, the first part of the book is all what I call a fun little romp down through the implosion of advertising as an industry, just tracking my time from, back before digital through the advent of digital and now into today, and just watching this whole concept of paying somebody to send your message out for you as opposed to doing it yourself is
Right.
is going the way of the dodo. And this sort of tracks that, that trail of disaster. And the second part of the book gives you some easy tips on things that you have to incorporate into a brand. And I got to tell you, it all starts with one thing. It's insight and data, finding out what people want and constantly iterating to give them what they want. And that, I mean, at the end of the day, if folks just take one thing out, that's it.
Yeah.
Well,
that's awesome. That's awesome. Listen, I've got two examples. You and I talked earlier, and I've got two examples. One of which we just mentioned, and then I know there's a couple of people that want to come in and ask questions. And if anyone else wants to ask questions of Marc, use the chat, which is over on the right-hand side, I think, and or click on the ask to join the broadcast and come on in. But there's two examples, and one of them we talked about. You mentioned this was the name of a bakery, Crust Bakery, and when you talk about promise and branding and simplicity, to my mind, I don't know how you could make it easier than that. No. Crust Bakery.
It's unbelievable. We talked. Yeah, Crust is got a wonderful promise, but it's so much more than the name. First off, it's a small little bakery, which to me is right away it conveys something important. They're rich enough. These people, they could make a big bakery. It's a little hole in the wall. And I always said it reminds me of being back in Germany where I used to live, because they have the best baking in the world displayed in the front window. They have extremely strong coffee, and inside it's as uncomfortable as a Catholic church, guaranteeing that you can't stay for more than 20 minutes. So they get you in and they get you out. And it has a really funky, weird feel to it that tells you this experience is going to be different from your average Starbucks. But yeah, there's so much that goes into it, and the name, it's a simple little name, and it's a little hole in the wall. Another one is Taco Fino. I mean, if we want to talk about local success stories, just down the street from Crust, again, a wonderful name, Taco Fino. Yep. Now, anybody who's inside or from the island knows that Tofino is a great surf resort just up North Island. And it's got a West Coast Mexican sort of feel to it, but very, very West Coast, more Sitka spruce than Mojave Desert. And they've got these amazing big burritos that are all natural, but fill you up, because when you're surfing, that's what you want. They don't waste any money on interior decoration, because that's not what surfers want. And, everything reinforces the brand promise. We know you came in here for good, healthy, big food. You're not wasting your time sitting around and getting fancy on us.
That's great. Well, I'm going to show you. I'm going to show people one more brand promise again, and this is something that's close to home for you. And then I'm not going to ask you to comment on it unless you want to. And then we're going to bring some people in. So here it is right now, and this is from your website, and I'm just going to let that sit there for a minute. So, you and I haven't known each other very long. I think it's less than a year. I mean, your name's been all over the city over the last few years since you came to town. But when I went to your website and I saw this, I just thought, you know what? I have to work with this guy. And so I'm I just love this. Like, there's so much white space. You're just throwing away so much space that could be used to clutter things up and to confuse people and to get people what is this guy on about? And you just throw it all away, and you get this thing boiled down into 6 words. You know what? You're a master. Well done. On that note, I'm gonna bring in. I got my New Zealand friend. Our New Zealand friend Ricky is back, and there he is. How you doing, Ricky?
Great, Alex. Good to see you again.
Good to see you again, as always.
Yeah, nice to hear from you, Mark. That's been fantastic so far.
How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Good. Just had a brilliant night. Just went out and watched the local team, the Highlanders, deal it to the British and Irish Lions. So that was
my God.
Yeah,
actually, you know, it's funny because my first roommate when I was in Hong Kong, his name was Paul Best. He's a Kiwi. And he used to be the illustrator, the cartoonist for the South China Morning Post. And so, yeah, I learned a little bit more than the Flight of the Conchords about New Zealand.
Excellent. Well, you should come sometime.
Middle Kingdom and all. I've heard it's absolutely amazing. And I also play hockey with a couple of Kiwis too, which they go everywhere, man. You find them everywhere. You can't get rid of them.
They live so far away that they like to go and see what else is around.
They're kind of like the Scots as well, in that there's these small countries. What's the population of New Zealand? 4 million, is that right, Ricky?
4.5 at the moment, but
don't forget that 0.5.
Mm-hmm.
4.5, and the same thing with Scotland, and yet these people, I think, you have a disproportionate impact on the rest of the world. So, and now in the latest polls that I've seen, New Zealand is the country to live in, like number one across most of the aspects that they chose. So, whatever you guys are doing, keep doing it. It's great.
Excellent. Cool.
Yeah. So how are things there? Any news since last we talked a couple of weeks ago?
Not a great deal. I've been churning away, and it's been really good to listen to what Mark's had to say, because I sort of come up with some of the things that he's been saying here on the work I've been doing this last week, which is we built with a group of three of us building a mobile app, hopefully the first, and I'm going through that churn of coming up with terms and conditions, or terms of service and privacy policy. Mm-hmm. And it's funny, when I started doing this, I thought, most of this, you've got to meet obligations. There's a whole lot of criteria that from statutory stuff, but it popped up on my head yesterday after reading a very simple document. It's actually, yes, that's there, but part of it is saying who you are, what you're going to do, what they should expect from you, and there will be no surprises.
Yeah.
And just enjoy the experience. It seems, and it's really cleared my mind to actually how to go and write it. So, but hearing you today really confirmed that's exactly what you need to do.
Oh, that's terrific. You know, I've got a funny story. A lot of people talk about things like terms and conditions, and there's the same thing like when you have all rights reserved conditions at the bottom of your website. Same thing if you have quote unquote boring documents like an annual report. Every point where somebody can come in contact with you is an opportunity to build your brand. And all you have to do is look at the annual report of Warby Parker, which is an eyeglass manufacturer, an online eyeglass manufacturer and distributor. Go to their annual report. Annual report, the last domain of the boring copywriter and art director, they've turned it upside down. And it is so cool. And I have been personally to a number of like terms and conditions things because they get highlighted. When you do a good job, they stand out like crazy. The bar is so low. If you could take standard terms and conditions and make them fun and interesting, you will get a viral campaign. Because it's just the bar is so non-existently low.
Yeah.
So think about that when you're doing that with your company. You want to make people laugh and want to make them smile. Take something that boring and build it into a promise, but also use the language that you would use.
Yeah, I've heard stories of some terms and conditions that most people don't read it, particularly if they look at it and it seems like a swarm of information. But buried in the bowels of one of these terms and conditions I can't remember what the product or service was, but was the terms that after 6 months, we will take ownership of your firstborn child. And people came back asking or questioning, what the hell was that all about?
Well, think of it.
Yeah.
Think of, when you scroll down and you're going to download the latest operating system and it says you have to get to the bottom of that page and then click I accept the conditions.
Yep.
What we used to do in advertising, just to have fun with clients, we'd have long presentations and we'd have big foam core boards, and here's a picture of an ad, and here's a picture of an ad, and here's a picture of an ad, and here's a monkey, and here's a picture of an ad, and here's a pic, and they go, what was that?
Exactly.
It works like crazy. And because the bar is so low, people will talk about you. These guys, they were so creative, even in that little thing, and then suddenly they go, hey, that's really, really cool.
Right. Yeah. No, look,
listen, I've got to step in here a little bit. We're starting to go over time. Ricky, is there any? Give a last fast question of Mark that he can help you with, or you're good?
I'm good. I think he's really confirmed some of the things. Keeping things simple is absolutely the way to go.
And also the way to do it is just to ask other people. We always, whenever we did peer review of new ideas, we'd bring our colleagues in to say, hey, is it really smart and fun? 2, we would bring in the account service people to say, is it on strategy? And then we'd bring in somebody completely unrelated, the shoe shine boy, and say, do you get it? And that was usually the most important opinion.
Great. Excellent.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Listen, thanks for good to see you again, Ricky. I'm going to pull you out of the show. You'll still be able to see it and hear it, of course. And Mark, what I'm going to do is just if you can stand by for a couple of more minutes. Mm-hmm. I know there's one other person that wants to come in and talk to you, but I really want to honor our time commitment, although I'm a little late. So I'm just going to pop back to this and just let people know that this is on Mark's homepage. It's awesome. I'm now going to take you through a very quick, hopefully it's like 2 minutes, how to use face-to-face to do a meeting. And it's 3 steps, very simple. If you want to do a meeting with people who are not physically located in your office, here's how you should do it. Step number 1, simply go to, oops, I'm going to pull Mark out there for a sec. There we go. Step number 1 is go to f2f.live. Couldn't be easier. You'll see a screen that looks like this. Just click start a broadcast like that. As soon as you click start a broadcast, you'll see not me, you'll see yourself. And then down at the lower right corner, what you'll see is a little window that looks like this, says invite your audience. And the thing to do here is just to click on the email button. And up will come an email that's pre-filled in with the link to the show that you're about to go live with, the meeting address, the meeting URL. Simply type in the names of the people you want to have in the meeting and then click send, and then they'll come with you. They'll be there in a minute or two. All they have to do is open the email, click the link, and they'll be right in your meeting able to see you. You can also use these other things, Twitter and copy link and LinkedIn if you're trying to do something, go to a different group, but I think the email button is the way to do it. And then the next step is skip the step there. It's too easy. The next step is simply to go to F2F. Just go F2F and you're immediately live. As soon as that happens, you can see you got the live button at the top. And then what will happen is people will show up in your guest queue and you just pull them in. So it's a simple 1, 2, 3. And I'll just go back very quickly and show you what they are. Go to f2f.live and click on start a broadcast. Go to the lower right-hand corner of your screen, click the email, and email the people that you want to have join the meeting. And then click on Go F2F, which is just makes your room live, bang. And as soon as that happens, you'll start to see people come in and they will join your meeting either automatically or they'll join your guest queue. It's just that simple. The last thing I wanted to do before to let people go if they need to is I wanted to give you the URL. And in order to get the free book, this is Mark's book for free. I want you to give him a big round of applause. And I'll leave this up here for a minute, and I'll bring Mark back in. And just to say thank you. But if you go there, free, didn'tseeitcoming.com/Alex, he'll ask you for your email address so he can send you the book. It's a PDF format. I've read it. It's awesome stuff. And I just want to frame the cover because the cover is the promise and a reminder to all of us that we got to take all that stuff that's rattling around in our heads, and we got to simplify that into something that's simple and fast and powerful, and conveys the promise that we want our customers to see and hear and experience. So, Marc, I just want to thank you so much for coming on today. It's awesome to have you here.
I love this.
And
this medium is so cool because it's, I feel like I'm on CNN. It's great. You want to talk about a cool brand promise. You take everything that is wrong with this sort of field. I'm a big veteran of the webinar wars, and using stuff like the citrus fruit that shall remain unnamed. And broadcasting into a black hole and having complicated stuff and having complex signups and having memberships and all that garbage. But, I've used face-to-face before, and I just love this little thing. You just pull people basically into the webinar, and it's so simple. Even an old guy can do it, so I just love it. And I love the quality of it too, and it's like Apple when they took the iPod, just one thumb can do it all. It's super nice.
Well, you're very sweet, and just to say that, and I really appreciate it. But that is the brand promise that we're trying to make, and quite frankly, I know you were the one that helped us come up with the name Face-to-Face Broadcasting, and it was, again, true story for everyone who's watching this. So it was literally months of effort, myself and the other co-founders trying to come up with names, and literally months. And I sat down with Marc, and he says, "What are you trying to do?" And I said, "Well, we're trying to be able to communicate to a lot of people, which is the broadcasting thing." And he goes, "Okay, I get that." And he says, "But then we want to talk face to face." And so he said, "Oh, so it's like face to face broadcasting." And you just sit there, and this is exactly what you just said, right? Even though you're the guy that's going to help me and other people out, but you didn't do this for yourself, because you got your own stuff rattling around here. You had to go somewhere else, and then they just yeah. So,
but it's so funny
awesome.
because I get paid so well by people to listen to them say stuff and go, "Oh, yeah." And I remember it for a second, just long enough to let them know that is a big idea, and then I wrap it up a little, and I give it back to them exactly what they just told me, and they say, "You're a genius." Yeah. How'd you think of that? You just told me that, and all I did was tell you again. And but yeah, we so often march past great ideas that are hidden in plain sight, just because we're so used to them, and that's the power of just getting somebody to weigh in and say, "Hey, for a little perspective." It's invaluable.
That's awesome. Listen, I know people are going to want to get onto their suppers. There's Tim. Tim, if you're out there, I see you're out there. I'm going to bring you into the show right now so you can have a chance to say hi to Marc. So this is probably my friend Tim Pippis. There he is, and let's there he is. Hey, Tim, how are you?
I'm feverishly typing down all of the things that you guys are saying. Marc, it's brilliant. Thank you for everything I've stolen from you. I can't wait to read your book. DDB has got quite a history. I jotted down the chat notes earlier that you guys are responsible for Think Small. DDB was responsible for Think Small.
That was
my all-time favorite.
That was Bill Bernbach. That was one of the founders, Bill Bernbach, and genius guy. And it's funny. They took a company that had no business succeeding, Volkswagen. They were making these small, super ugly cars right after the Second World War, when everybody wanted a big, shiny car. They were German cars, and I don't need to tell you what kind of problem that was in 1949. And they were good on gas when nobody wanted anything good on gas, and they smelled kind of funny. And then what they did, they took all those weaknesses with a bit of perspective. They pulled back and say, why don't we take all of those weaknesses and turn them into strengths? So it became this nerdy car created by Germans who couldn't help but tell the truth, because that's what nerdy Germans did. And it became a huge success with all the right people, with the trendsetters, with the college crowd, and then it just fanned out from there. Amazing story.
Really, really amazing. I think one of the headlines underneath their iconic ads just said, ugly.
Yeah. Yeah. No, there was no shortage of self-abuse in those ads. And that's what completely caught the American car manufacturers flat-footed, because at that time and still into the 1990s, what you did, you promised something amazing. You know, if you drink this cola, you'll suddenly get straight teeth and six-pack abs. And, you know, it's all horse manure. But Volkswagen just went out and said, well, we can't lie because we're German. And so think small, or this one is a lemon. That was one of the headlines, lemon,
Right.
you know,
Yeah.
and
Lemon.
awesome.
Well, and one of the, you know, if you fast forward the Volkswagen story and about how not to manage a brand, and the recent stories over the last 2 years, right, with the whole diesel thing. Right now, you have a bunch of Germans who are not telling the truth and who are obfuscating, so there's you got the story coming up from 1949 to 1979, and then you've got over 2 years how they burned $20 billion worth of corporate valuation.
Well, you know, it's a funny thing. The guys who were running the company in 1949 were engineers. Alex, you teach engineers. You know what engineers are like. They solve problems. And they might have a business mind, but they might also not. Then what the company became, once it became very famous, they had a stake to protect. And so out go the engineers, and in come the bean counters. And bean counters do not get that. And so bean counters are all about making the numbers. So they did what they had to make the numbers, which was slide ethically.
Yeah. Although I do say, and I teach this in my engineering class, and I got a couple of those engineers watching right now. I'm sure of it. But I do say that ultimately engineers were the ones that wrote the software, the defeat mechanism software that VW was using over the last couple of years. So it's yikes. You got to be careful.
Yeah,
right?
You'll always find an engineer to execute, but who pressed the button to say, you know what, we should get the engineers to do something. It wasn't the engineers came up with the idea. I'm sure it was the bean counters.
Yeah, that's true.
So,
hey, Tim, how are things in Hummingbird land? So Tim's been running.
Are you the Hummingbird guy? I came and visited the Hummingbird site. I love the Hummingbird site.
Thank you. Glad you like it. It's I've been watching little hummingbirds hum for a couple of weeks now, and every time they show up and land on the nest, and the little beaks open up, and they get that surgical meal. It's a stopper. It's just amazing. So I'm humming along. There's your fun. I'm humming along.
I love it.
Yeah,
love it.
Thank you. Thanks for that name, Face to Face. Brilliant. Really brilliant. Nice. Really.
It is
nice
a good one, isn't it? It is a very good one. Yeah.
Worth every penny we paid.
Exactly.
And then some.
Yeah.
Well, get your money back if it doesn't work out. There you are.
Exactly.
Listen, guys, I am going to call this meeting to a close. It has been great, Mark, again to have you on. Tim, I'm so happy that you were able to make it on as well. Yeah. And I know you've been running face to face nonstop for the last 10 days or 2 weeks. Long may your hummingbird, may hail and the hummingbird live. And a couple of other things is that I am going to be doing this again with Mark on Thursday morning at 10 o'clock Pacific. So if you enjoyed this and you want to come back and see Mark talk again, he'll be here. And if you want to let other people know now that you've had a chance to experience it, please it'll be at the same address, f2f.live/Alex at 10 o'clock Pacific on Thursday in 2 days. And one last thing is that I want to do this on a regular basis, bring in people who are good looking and smart and have something that's cool to say and fun to watch. And I think we checked all those boxes with Mark. So if you or you know someone who you'd like to see come on to this show, please let me know. Drop me an email, and we'll make it happen. So once again, I'm gonna leave you with this URL right here. Please go there right away and get your free copy of Mark's book. And thanks again for showing up. Mark, you're awesome. And we'll see you again on Thursday.
Can't wait.